start off in the AL East with the New York Yankees. They just brought back Trent Grisham on a qualifying offer, so Cody Bellinger might be a little bit of a stretch, but no matter how much the front office says they don't want to spend money, they always end up getting it done, and I think Cody Bellinger will be that guy. He fits so well in Yankee Stadium, had a great year last year, and I think they'll bring him back. Coming off a World Series loss, the Blue Jays need to add some big offensive help this offseason. Their star shortstop Bo Bichette is on the market, but I think a more important player they need to bring in is Kyle Tucker. He's the most coveted free agent this offseason, and I think he'd fit so well into the Toronto lineup. Just imagine him batting second instead of Nathan Lucas in that World Series. Next up, we're talking about the Boston Red Sox, and let's talk about Alex Bregman. The monster makes right-handed hitters extremely well, and it fits Bregman extremely well. He had a great season last year, though he had a rough second half. He did prove that he deserves to be re-signed on a long-term deal. Now let's talk about the Tampa Bay Rays. They flipped Ha-Seong Kim at the deadline last year, but I do think they'll bring him back this offseason. I think a team like the Rays will value Ha-Seong Kim's defense and, overall ability as a baseball player more than most teams would, so I think they'll bring him back, and he has value to them at shortstop in the middle of their order. Now on to the Baltimore Orioles. Let's give them a relief guy in Ryan Helsley. Their front office doesn't like to spend too much money. Helsley's price will be much cheaper because of his rough second half last year with the Mets, and overall I think he could be pretty decent for them out of the bullpen. Let's move on to the AL Central and talk about the Chicago White Sox. There's not a whole lot of good on this team, but there is Colson Montgomery, Edgar Carroll, a lot of young offensive guys, and I think we can add a 35-year-old Mike Yastrzemski on a one-year deal. He could provide some decent power, and if he plays good, they could flip him at the deadline for more prospects. The Cleveland Guardians are easily one of the worst offensive teams I've ever seen in my lifetime, but I think we could add some cheap offense to help Jose Ramirez, so let's pick up a guy like Cedric Mullins. He's definitely going to be cheap this year, and I think he has a good track record of being a solid MLB hitter. In the past, he plays some decent defense, he can steal some bases, and overall I think if he plays well, he could definitely help the Guardians offensively. Now let's talk about the Detroit Tigers, and I think they should sign Bo Bichette. I'm extremely high on Bo Bichette. The Detroit Tigers definitely need a new shortstop and a guy that'll hit 300, lead the league in hits, and hit 25 home runs. You can't ask for much more out of a shortstop, and I think he'd be a great fit there. Let's talk about the Minnesota Twins now. I do think they're going to trade both Joe Ryan and Pablo Lopez this offseason, so they're going to need some depth in the starting rotation. I think they should pick up a guy like Adrian Hauser. He hasn't proved throughout his career that he can be very good, but last season he had a very good year, a very solid year, and I think if he plays like he did last year, it could definitely help the Twins in their rotation. Let's talk about the Kansas City Royals now. They definitely struggle on offense, and this is the one time I'm going to suggest a trade in this video, and I think they should trade for Jarren Duran from the Boston Red Sox. I think he's an amazing fit out in Kansas City. He could help them at the top of the order with some on-base help, a little bit of pop. He's speedy, he can play defense in that big outfield out there in Kansas City. He was linked to them at the deadline last year. He definitely could help them in the long run, and I think it'd definitely be worth it to make a trade for him. Alright, let's end off the American League with the AL West. Let's start it off with the worst and most underwhelming team in the division, the Los Angeles Angels. They just traded for Grayson Rodriguez, giving up Taylor Ward, which I think is a good deal, but it leaves an outfield spot open. I think a solid hitter like Jake Fraley, who just got DFA'd, could, fill a hole. It's not anything crazy. I don't think the Angels need anything crazy. They're not going to be good. So I think Jake Fraley could definitely hit them 15 to 20 home runs next year. Now let's go on to the Athletics. I'm pretty low on them. I think they could sign a guy like Yohan Moncada to play third base. In that minor league ballpark, he could definitely give them 15 to 20, maybe even 25 home runs in a good season. He would play some okay defense, I think he could definitely be a good fit out in that ballpark and on the Athletics. Now the Seattle Mariners. They just took a trip to the ALCS, and a big part of that was from this guy. He just had a bounce-back season, and that guy's Jorge Polanco. There was a few down years over the past couple seasons, but I do think after last year, he deserves to keep playing second base for Seattle. Now, Texas is definitely an interesting one. I do think the Rangers are missing a little hole at first base, so I think the Japanese player coming over from the MPB, Kazuma Okamoto, could definitely help that for them. He has a very high ceiling. He is 30 years old, but I think if he puts in a couple of good seasons, it definitely could help them move to the postseason. Finally, let's talk about the Houston Astros. Those Crawford boxes in left field basically make right-hand hitters on steroids, so I think they should pick up Harrison Bader. Bader had a great year with Minnesota and Philadelphia last year. He would make a great fit out in those Crawford boxes in Houston. He plays solid defense, and I think it would overall be a pretty good pickup for them. Shifting gears over to the National League East, let's start off with the Philadelphia Phillies. I think everyone could have guessed it by now, but I'm going to say they should re-sign Kyle Schwarber for obvious reasons. He hit 55 home runs. You can't can't ask for any more out of a hitter, out of a DH. I'm just going to say that, leave it at that. Let's move on. Let's talk about Atlanta. They were one of the most disappointing teams this past season. A lot of that was the offense and injuries with Austin Riley, Ronald Acuna, etc. But I think we should re-sign Marcell Ozuna here. He's a pretty solid hitter. He's getting up there in age, but on a 1 or 2 year deal, it really couldn't hurt for a team that's not really trying to compete. In my opinion, I don't think they should compete next year. So let's leave it at Marcell Ozuna for this offseason as their most important player to re-sign. It's a simple fix for the Mets, in my opinion, and that's going out and getting a starting pitcher like Framber Valdez. He's very solid all across the board. He gets outs. It's simple as that. New York definitely needs a starting pitcher, and I think Framber's that guy. I think the Marlins definitely could be pretty decent next year if they go out and get some offensive pieces. I think a guy like Austin Hayes right next to Kyle Stowers in the outfield could definitely help for that. He proved last year in Cincinnati that he can get on base at an extremely well rate, and he also hits for some pop. If he can hit 17, 20, maybe 22 home runs next year, hit 280 with the high 700s OPS, that could definitely get the job done out in Miami. Now let's go out to Washington and talk about the Nationals. I'm not too high on them like most people are, but I think I'm going to bring back Mike Soroka. They traded him last deadline, and I think if he stays healthy, he's been coming back from multiple injuries over the past couple of years. If they can keep him healthy and on a good, consistent starting schedule, he could definitely be a pretty solid pitcher for them. Moving on into the NL Central, let's start off with the Chicago Cubs. I actually detailed the Cubs offseason in my first video, which was last video. Go ahead and check that out if you want to see, but I think the most important player they need to sign is Dylan Cease. They need a bona fide number one in their rotation, and Cease can definitely do that with his strikeout stuff. Again, if you want to hear more, go check out that video. It's the last video on my channel. Let's move on to Pittsburgh. Just off recent reports, I think they want to spend some more money and get better. The issue is not many people want to go to Pittsburgh. Also, I think that's a little bit of a lie out of the front office, but I think Willie Castro could fit that mold. He's a pretty solid offensive player, can play everywhere on the field, and I think he'd work for Pittsburgh. Next up, Milwaukee Brewers. I think they need to sign a hitter, and that's going to be Ryan O'Hearn. Overall, he's a solid hitter, hits for some power, gets on base. Nothing you can't not like there. So, Ryan O'Hearn. There's absolutely nothing exciting going on in St. Louis with the Cardinals, so I picked out J.J. Bleday. He had a 20 home run season a couple years ago. If he can do that again, I think he could be pretty solid for them. Here's another big one, the Cincinnati Reds. I think they could be pretty good next year if they sign a hitter, and I think they should sign Eugenio Suarez. They have a good history with him, and if he could hit 50 home runs again, absolutely, sign him up. Him and Ellie would be a dynamic duo on the left side of that infield. Starting off in the NL West with the Dodgers, the reigning World Series champions, they need bullpen help desperately. Even though they did make it, Yoshinobu Yamamoto did a lot of their heavy lifting. They need to sign Edwin Diaz. No ifs, ands, whats about it. Edwin Diaz is their guy. The Padres, 2 words, Munetaka Murakami. Out there in San Francisco, I picked out Zach Gallen. He didn't have the best year of his career last year, but overall, for a rotation that a 43-year-old Justin Verlander last year, Zach Gallen could definitely do a pretty solid job in the rotation next year for them. I don't think Arizona is going to be very competitive next year, and I think the Diamondbacks could bring back their old friend Paul Goldschmidt so he can end his career there. And finally, we got the Colorado Rockies, one of the worst teams in MLB history. Let's bring in a guy like Adolis Garcia. He just got released a couple days ago, and he could go there and literally hit 40 home runs. They could flip him at the deadline for something good. You never know. I think him in that ballpark could work out very well. Let me know how I did in the comments and subscribe.